Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and today I have a delightful conversation with just a remarkable athlete and human being, Sarah True. In this episode, Sarah drops the bomb that she's pregnant and due in July. I had no idea, and it completely stumbled me. But it was absolute pure surprise and joy. So once again, to Sarah, huge congratulations. Sarah moves on after dropping this news to describe her journey into the sport and the Olympics and Ironman and just everything else in between. And she describes the neurological issues she's been struggling with since Kona Ironman 2018. And she describes it as like a dimming switch in the brain that turns off the lights, even when the body is just completely fine. There are so many laughs in this one. Sarah shares so many wonderful stories, and there's just so many great takeaways. Before we go on, though, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for sharing. And any and all feedback is just always appreciated, so please keep it coming. If you'd like to support what I'm doing, you could support the show's sponsors. That would really help me out. And or you can support me by contributing on my Patreon page, but please don't feel you have to. But every little bit does just help me out. I hope you enjoy Sarah as much as I did. She was really, really fun episode. Remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. I want to give a huge shout out to Athletic Greens for supporting the show and for just being there every day for me. Athletic Greens is now very much a part of my daily routine. Just such a simple way to get a delicious blend of 75 superfoods, vitamins and minerals and probiotics and so much more. I really encourage you to invest in yourself. Invest in your own health for your performance optimization today and for your longevity. Sign up and have it delivered straight to your door. It's just so simple, tastes great, and does what I really need for my health. I've also been doubling down on Athletic Greens vitamin D. Just a huge proportion of the population are vitamin D deficient, myself included. And I focus heavily on getting out in the sun throughout the day, but when I can't, I religiously supplement with vitamin D. And right now, if you order, they'll give you a year's supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs. Athletic Greens is just so much more than a multivitamin and multimineral. It takes to the next level, adding in a daily dose of superfoods, probiotics, greens blends, and so much more to support your gut health, your energy, your immunity, and stress. So please do yourself a favor and sign up. It also makes a great gift for a family member or a friend. So sign up now and get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. Now, you've probably heard me on many of the episodes discussing hyper-ice products with my guests, whether it's sitting in the Normatec compression boots, which I've been doing after solid workouts for, 10 plus years, or it's the Hypervolt percussion massage devices that I use daily to warm me up before going to the gym, or the vibrating massage roller, which I use before every run. All of the hyper-ice gear is just so easy to use and just keeps me going. My goal is to keep moving, keep physically fit for many, many years to come. And using the hyper-ice products are just helping me do just that. So simple, quick and easy to look after my body at home. And I've just started using the new Hypervolt Go. It's surprisingly powerful and whisper quiet and ultra lightweight at only 1.5 pounds or 680 grams. And it's 30% smaller than the Hypervolt. The Go is ready to provide relief wherever you roam. With 3 speed settings, 2 interchangeable headset attachments, 18-volt rechargeable lithium-ion battery, and like I said, lightweight, easy to use, 1.5 pounds, 680 grams, and it's TSA approved for carry-on. So get 10% off at all Hyperice products using code GREG10 at checkout. Go to hyperice.com. That's HYPERICE.com and use code GREG10 at checkout. Are you someone who uses bike computers while you ride and or wearable devices while you run? Would you like to have it while you swim? For years, I've been using bike computers and wearables on the run to gain feedback to help efficiency and performance. And now I can have it while I swim with the Form Smart Swim Goggles. Honestly, these goggles blew my mind. I put the Form Smart Swim Goggles on and immediately could see the metrics on the screen. I love playing with my stroke rate and seeing how it affects my pace. just as I did on the bike for most of my career, always trying to find the best cadence to generate power and create the most speed. With Form Smart Swim goggles, you can see all the metrics while you're swimming: distance, pace, stroke rate, and heart rate. They have it all. The swim data is displayed on the goggle lens, and you can customize the display to see the metrics you want to see. The goggles track it all and are automated. You start them at the beginning of your swim, and you don't have to press any buttons in between. They automatically track everything. The goggles connect to the Form Swim app on your smartphone, and there you can review all the details of your swims and see what other swimmers are up to in the Form community as well. Battery life is incredible. 1 hour charge gives you 16 hours of swim time. So go to formswim.com/Greg. That's formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off, or you can use code Greg15 at checkout. All right, today's guest is one of the few triathletes to reach the top of the world at the shorter Olympic distance and then reach the top of the world at the Ironman distance. She represented the United States in triathlon at the 2012 London Olympics, finishing 4th, and then again in 2016 at the Rio Olympics. And she finished 2nd in the ITU World Triathlon Series in 2014. And after leaving short course in the Olympics, she quickly stamped her name as a contender for the Ironman World title, placing 4th on her debut at the Kona World Championships in 2018. It hasn't all been smooth sailing, but she continues to adapt and rebuild and is one of the sport's great champions. And she's a longtime friend of mine and just a great talent of the sport of triathlon and an all-round just wonderful person. So welcome and thank you for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show, Sarah True, aka Groffy. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on, Greg. It's been really cool to see you transition to the podcast stuff.
Oh, I've been really enjoying it. And you too, right? You co-host a show at the moment, don't you?
Yeah, it turns out that if you're a bit chatty and you like talking to people, podcasts are a good way to get it out of your system.
I know. It was funny. I started this show, about 18 months ago. And it was all because I was doing this pre-recording for the 2019 Kona World Championships for NBC. And I was interviewing a lot of the athletes for that. And I hung up the phone with Sebastian Kinley after an hour and a half. And I was like, I should have recorded that, and so that was the whole catalyst for me getting into it. But it's really fun, isn't it? Just to have these long form conversations with people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what is cool is that, after you've kind of focused on your own training and your own racing for so long, just sitting back and seeing how other people have gone about it.
Yeah.
You're bringing your own insight into it, obviously, but just seeing how many different ways there are to achieve in sport.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To skin a cat, as they like to say. Where are you now?
Cats being skinned on this podcast. But.
Yes. Where are you at the moment?
I'm currently at home in New Hampshire.
Okay. Is it warming up there a bit now?
Most of the snow and ice is melted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing is these days it feels like, most of the athletes do so much riding indoors on their Zwift that it must be okay living in some of these colder places now compared to, say, 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just technology. Like when, the early days of trainers where you would have to switch out your tire every season because it would just burn up and you're staring at a blank wall. I mean, it's totally changed. So it's not only is it better for training, but also just so much more time effective. You get down, you can do your work. You don't have to worry about getting the right course to be able to do, your Tabata session and making sure that it's flat enough, whatever the case may be. You could just get your intervals done and bim, bam, done. Perfect.
I actually think it's one of the reasons these last few years we've actually seen some faster times happening both in the half Ironman and the Ironman, because I think people are being far more specific with their bike work. They're not just rolling outside for 4 to 5 hours. They're sitting on the trainer and they're doing the specific work to the specific wattages and everything else they need to be getting done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have the other element of, staying in the aero position. So somebody like Paula Findlay talked about this after Challenge Daytona, where she spent most of her training was indoors and was able to do all of her intervals in a very good position and just got so dialed in and strong holding that TT position. And, sometimes in the real world, you you aren't able to do that.
It was funny. Yeah, she did mention that to me on the show. Actually, she did all her pre-challenge Daytona race in Alberta, Canada, in below freezing temperatures, and it was just all on the treadmill and on the bike. But she was they almost create a little heat chamber there, and she was fine come Daytona. I don't think it was terribly hot December in Florida anyway. But she was so, like you said, specifically ready to race. So there are benefits to, just locking yourself in those rooms and doing the work that needs to be done. But are you working with Zwift and Wahoo? Are they sponsors of yours?
Yeah, they are. Thankfully, it's one of those partnerships where I use the products well in advance, so it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, I work with both companies. Yeah,
that's a great setup to have. Now, you've just had surgery, right? Bone spurs removed from your toe, or what?
Yeah.
How's that all gone?
So exactly. So let's rewind a little bit here. So let's rewind to 2020. Nobody wants to think about it because it was, pretty a mixed bag for most of us. So the first part of the year, everything's cruisy. You hit March, things are looking pretty uncertain. We head back home to New Hampshire. We were in Boulder for the winter. And, I talked to my coach. I'm like, hey, Dan, I have to take over homeschooling for a couple of my nieces. We don't really know when racing is going to start back up again. So we went back to a training block, started back to basically base training. We're like, let's just see how things unfold. And by the time we hit the summer, I realized that just the uncertainty, I'm very goal oriented. I love having a race on the calendar and knowing it's going to happen. And just, we weren't at that point. So I'm like, okay, I have no control over what's going to happen over the next year, but let me think about what I want in my life, post sport. And let's try to work towards that, because I may not be able to achieve performance goals, in terms of racing anytime soon, but I can start working towards the longer term goals. And for me, that was, all right, I've had this foot thing for a while. I've had a bone spur on the top of my foot. I've been able to manage it at a pretty high level, but I just want to run again without pain. Let's get that on the schedule. My orthopedist had wanted to do it for a while, but I didn't feel like I had the time to recover. Another thing was, all right, I know I want to go to grad school. I want to get my doctorate in psychology after sport. So let's start working on the prereqs. So I, signed up for some courses. And the third thing was, hey, let's start a family. So yeah, I've been chipping away at all three of those.
Hang on. What?
Yeah, so, just casually drop that in there that, gonna have a baby in a couple of months. No big deal.
Oh, my goodness. I got goosebumps all over me. Actually, I wish we had film right now. My hairs are standing on end. That is the greatest news. For people who are listening to this, we are actually recording, what is the date today? April 6th. So I'm sorry, this episode is coming out a few weeks late, but my goodness. When are you due? Where are we?
Mid-July. Yeah, so back in this, I guess, late fall, I was supposed to get my surgery, and I go in, oops, you can't get it because you're pregnant. But then they're like, all right, we can move to second trimester. So I got the chilectomy, the bone spur surgery, second trimester. But yeah, our lives are going to change in a massive way. And the order of things have been shifted. So I definitely want to try to race again before I hang it up for good. But, that was not my intent. I really wanted to race a final season and then start a family. But, you just got to roll with it.
Oh, massive congrats to both you and Ben. I'm so, so happy for you. That's just, you've thrown me for a loop. That was not in my format.
Well, I've been pretty hush-hush about it. I know a lot of people like to blast it on the social media. And I'll probably talk about it more openly, but it's been kind of fun to just keep it close to my chest.
Yeah, we've got plenty of girlfriends to share. You've got your sister, who I want to talk about a little bit later. She has a couple of kids, like you said, your nieces that you're looking after. But then all your triathlon friends from, Marinda Carfrey and my wife Laura, and there's so many women that have gone before you just now that you can pick their brains and have a little bit of motherhood bonding as this all sort of happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I need to tell them first.
Oh geez. I know before my wife and before Marinda. Okay, that's it. There's the bombshell.
I've told one friend. So I'm not joking. At this point in early April, with you and me talking right now, Greg, we've told immediate family, and that's pretty much it. Oh, wow. And I told sponsors.
Wow, I feel pretty special right now. I'm just going to let that sit. What's crazy is I was setting up, all these conversations with different athletes and coaches and doctors. And I wrote you, I don't know, was it January, February, whatever it was. And your response was, yes, I'm in, but can we push it back for 6 to 8 weeks? And I must admit, the thought crossed my mind is, well, hang on. I wonder if she's waiting till, a certain amount of time pass. But then just last week, you kind of mentioned, I've just had an operation on my foot. And I'm like, that's what she was waiting just to get that done. So, you've totally tricked me on this one. That was great.
Oh, my pleasure. You got to keep the interviewer on their toes too.
Yeah. Just so wonderful. And you said July, right?
So mid-July, the timing works out really well. So my husband Ben is a runner, and they have Olympic trials in June. So, got to make sure that his sleep is good going in.
Okay. Oh, great. Yeah, because he hasn't quite made an Olympics yet, right? So you've got that hanging over him, right?
He's been super close. So we're talking 1/10 of a second kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for people that don't know Ben True, he's one of America's greatest 5K, 10K milers. I think what's his 5K is a 13:02, is it?
Yeah, you got it.
I got it. All right, and he's 10K. What is that? Was it 27:10 or 20? Well, I can't remember what it was. 27:14 maybe. I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Ridiculous.
Super fast. I don't know.
Yeah, numbers that I don't really know how to talk about. Yeah.
Me neither. I can't even fathom it. It's like, especially right now. But at my fastest, if we went out and did a 5K, he would be done and I would still have like a kilometer left.
Trust me, at my pace right now, I'd be halfway. So you might only have a kilometer. I'd have 2.5 kilometers remaining.
Well, I'm packing a little extra right now, so it's slowed me down.
So you started
that and the foot surgery.
You've started to show a little bit. You started to feel it. Yeah.
I'm starting to get out of the awkward phase where it just looks like, I've been hitting the chocolate a little hard. Because like you're first, you don't pop quite as much, I guess.
No.
But I was on the pool deck today, feeling a little funny because I saw somebody I knew, and they gave me that sideways look, like either you're pregnant or you've put on
the COVID-20.
Yeah, but just in the midsection.
Yeah. That is so great. So mid-July, when are the Olympics?
August.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But since no foreigners are actually allowed to travel there to spectate, it kind of works out well that you don't
feel like you're missing out because you can't go anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh well, I do wish the very best for Ben on that. He has been close in the past, so hopefully he's getting some good work done now. And like you said, getting plenty of rest before get the Olympics done. And then come home and be a dad and have no sleep for the next, 6 months.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting because I think he's going to do his marathon debut in one of the fall marathons.
Oh.
So we'll be mid no sleep. Yeah.
Oh, you'll be fine. It's the first 3 months, and then after that, everything settles down.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if you get them sleep trained, if you have sleep training tips, Greg, Please let me know.
Just put
or
them in
Laura.
put them in the room and shut the door.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's hard though because you love the little buggers.
Yeah.
It is hard though. So you did mention a couple of other things in that list that were needed to be done, but I got kind of sideswiped there. You mentioned you're looking at doing a doctorate in psychology.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So it's I've realized that it's been like, obviously the natural fit would probably be more sports psychology, but I really want to do more kind of clinical. I'm really interested in, like, we're going to get a little specific here, in integrated care. So going into like a healthcare setting, a hospital or whatever, and working with physicians and primary care people to help with behavior modification for patients to improve their overall well-being. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, I think we've thought so separately about mind and body being separate entities. But in sport, you learn that it's fully integrated. Like everything. the way your thoughts are dictates a lot of how your body responds. And healthcare is starting to get up to speed with that. It's something we learned through sport, and it's really intuitive to us, especially at a high level. But they're starting to understand that you can't treat it separately. You need to have people who help with kind of habit modification, things like that, in the primary care setting to really maximize the health of their patients.
That's so well said. It's, you try to help somebody with nutrition, but then you start to realize you can't take nutrition just on its own. There's a reason why we snack or we eat, or it all comes back to psychology. There's a reason. I mean, obviously there's a physiological response as well, but the psychology of nutrition is far more impactful than the actual physical, just what are you eating? Right. And that goes to say with and I've said it on this show numerous times, what we think has a direct impact on our physiology. When we talk about visualizing, like you said, as an athlete, where we visualize, we have goals, we create habits and routines, and all of that is the power of the mind that sets the purpose for the physical body. And Western medicine is so great in so many ways, but boy, does it miss a whole connecting piece there. So I think that's fantastic what you're doing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's starting to move in that direction, thankfully. But because like you said, because it's something that we understand so innately as athletes, and it's hard to kind of step back and realize that the general population, that's a really foreign concept to them, that the way their mind operates affects their body. But we really need to start kind of driving that home, I think, with most people.
I think that's an area that you could, I don't know, you've got me thinking now. We'll have to talk post-show, because I've got ideas and ways that you could actually start a huge business out of all of that. Says the capitalist in me, which is not appropriate when we're talking about just trying to help people. But I do think that there's room to really impact a lot of people with that kind of a mindset, bringing what we learned as athletes over to the general public, not just amateur athletes and everybody else, but go beyond that. So I think that's wonderful. Good on you. So how far along are you with all of that?
I'm just chipping away. So hopefully I'll be applying next fall to different programs, and it's pretty overwhelming. So I'd be entering, hopefully, 2022. But it's pretty overwhelming thinking that it's going to be 5 years of my life back in school, with a little one.
Yes,
but what I know about endurance sport is, we can do it. Like, you put your mind to it, you can do it.
Well, you can definitely do it. I think it just becomes, the one thing you do is you just say, look, consistency is key, right? Just keep turning up. And whether that's study, whether that's training, whether that's whatever it is, you're racing. I think you just got to keep turning up, and you have that mindset, and the people that I've seen in the sport of triathlon, in particular, I've trained with some of the strongest women in the world. It's amazing what they can do, and then take from their professional, athletic careers and into whatever you do next. So I think it's fantastic. A quick mini break. I really want to encourage you to do something special for yourself and sign up to Athletic Greens and get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. I'm loving the new Hypervolt Go percussion massage device from Hyperice. It's powerful, quiet, lightweight, and TSA approved so I can use it while I travel. Check out the Hypervolt Go and all the other incredible Hyperice gear at hyperice.com and use code GREG10 for a 10% discount. That's hyperice.com. If you want to see all your key metrics like pace, distance, stroke rate, and heart rate while you swim, you need the Form Smart Swim Goggles. Go to formswim.com/Greg. That's formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off. Or you can use code GREG15 at checkout. But let's rewind the clock, because how did we get to where we are? We looked at 2020, but let's take the clock even further back. Let's go back and just tell me, when did you find your passion for sports and in particular endurance sports?
Oh, geez. Let's rewind all the way. So I'm the youngest of 3. And I think most kids who have older siblings, you want to try to keep up with them. Both of my siblings were pretty sporty. My sister joined the swim team pretty early. And of course, my first response was, I have to join now too. She didn't let me join for a year, but then it just was always trying to keep up with her. She's 3 years older than me. Was always better than me because of the age difference. And then, I just kept on trying different things, played all different sports, realized that I have minimal coordination. So doing the endurance stuff is perfect. Go in a straight line. You can't mess it up.
That's great. You know what's surprising is how many, and I was saying it to Laura before I came in here, today to the studio, is how many of my guests are either the second or third sibling.
Yeah.
It's like this, I don't know, there must be people doing their PhDs out there studying the effects of being the second and what effect that has on, the ability or what happens in those really youthful years to impact us going forward. Fascinating, because it's that whole thing of I just got to try and keep up.
Yeah.
So when did you find triathlon then?
So triathlon got in my radar early, back in when, we all only had a few channels on the TV. I remember watching, Paula Newby-Fraser out in Kona, just crushing it. I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But, at the time you didn't see tons of women doing sport. And so for whatever reason, it resonated with me that, hey, I like swimming, I like running. This seems awesome, but Ironman, that's nuts. I'll do that when I'm really big. Because when you're a kid, just those distances, that doesn't jive well with you. And then, so it had it in the back of my mind. We did not have any triathlons where I was. I grew up in, very small town, about 2,000 people. It didn't have anything like that anywhere near me. And by the time I was in high school, I decided to drive to a triathlon that was 4 or 5 hours away. It was my first one. And then every summer after that, I would do a couple more. I swam in college, but, still felt like this triathlon stuff, I would like to do it. Graduated from school. And I'm like, you know what? I've done a few races. Let's just see how far I can get. And I gave myself a 2-year window to see if I could do anything. And at the end of the 2 years, I'm like, I see promise. Like, let's keep on going. I was living in Boulder at the time, training with some phenomenal athletes. And I think it was a good wake-up call that, like, if I really apply myself, maybe I can get good. But really, I never went into it with expectations that I would be, Olympian, that I would be world class. It was more just, let's see how far I can get.
What years were those when you went to Boulder, and were you training with were you with Siri Lindley then?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
Siri and Miranda Carfrey and who else? Lauren Groves. She's changed her name since. Mary Beth Ellis. So we had a nice little group of women, different disciplines, different strengths and weaknesses, different experience levels. And it was just really neat to develop with them, and learn things from them. Yeah, so it was pretty eye-opening to me. And then, of course, you're in Boulder where, it's the mecca of triathlon, quote unquote. And like, you're living in it.
And so was that 2006, 2007?
Yeah.
Kind of the years? Yeah. So you graduated college, what was that, 2003,
2004. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to give this a good crack. And then when I look at your performances, I mean, you had some pretty decent success pretty quickly. I mean, if I look at the Doha World Cup, so this is when they were called World Cups rather than World Series events. I mean, that was March 2006. You had a 7th place there. I mean, was it that event? When did you kind of realize, hang on, this is a good decision to be doing this?
Honestly, it wasn't until 2008 when, I went into it. My goal was to qualify for Olympic trials. And then, I think if I had been more mentally prepared, I would have had a much better shot at making the team. And, I ended up being, second alternate. But that for me was a wake-up call that I need to take this seriously, more seriously than I have been, because I sold myself short. I didn't believe that I was capable of being on the team. And of course I didn't make the team because I didn't think that I belonged there. So let's start believing that I'm good enough. So that for me was a real marker in my career.
And did you stay, because you've had a couple of coaches along the way, did you stay with Siri then, or was that a time you tried something new, or? Yeah.
So I as is with many athletes, you kind of just keep seeking something else. And, I ended up the next quad working with Darren Smith. So I went over to Australia and I just wanted to see what it would be like to be slightly more focused. I don't want to use the word sacrifice, but, sacrifice a bit more and just be a bit more. Yeah, he was a lot more hands-on, in your face, challenged me in really positive ways. At the time, it really required me to get out of my comfort zone. Sometimes I've heard foreign coaches call us marshmallow Americans. So he had to kind of drive the marshmallow American out of me. And it made me a better athlete.
Well, it's I don't know if that's quite fair, but I understand the concept of getting uncomfortable to stretch yourself to go beyond where you've been. I think that's very important for us to grow. In any area of our life, it's important, to challenge ourselves and do something that scares us. I think, and you mentioned Darren Smith, one of the great coaches. He's not coaching, I don't believe, anymore, but had a phenomenal squad there. For a good 6 to 8 years, I think, just had a lot of great athletes. And it always seemed to me it was Darren Smith's squad versus sort of Joel Filiol's squad, with both the men and the women at all the World Series races there for a while. Did you see it the same?
Yeah, Darren struggled to coach women at the same level, but we had Lisa Norden, we had who else was it? Kate Roberts, Vicky Holland, Ani Haug, this incredible group of women. Barbara Riberos. We all trained together for a few years, and it was great. We pushed each other on a daily basis. I think what was really nice is that one of his policies was to make sure that we were all, not in competition with each other for Olympic spots, and just trying to, be one of the best in our country. And then just when it comes to race day, just whoever has the best race does well. But yeah, it was really interesting because I spent, a lot of the year living out of a suitcase. And, I think that's really important for, formation for a lot of athletes. But towards the end of that, it started to get much harder, especially as I met Ben, who became my husband, and he was based in the US. So yeah, the whole living out of suitcase thing got a little bit old, but I still adored Darren, and definitely built some lifelong friendships in that group.
I agree with you when you say, I think there's a point in every athlete's career where you've got to go, I don't know, just live out of a suitcase, like you said, but even not live comfortably. I mean, you live in, a 2-bedroom house with 3 or 4 of you as athletes, and you kind of, there's a real, I don't know, a little mongrel, a bit of grit that comes out of that experience, and it's kind of, I feel like we did a lot of that in the 90s. As Australians, we all leave the island down there and we all head over to Europe or maybe to North America. But it's that I think there's a resilience you get by testing yourself and it not being comfortable for that period of time. And so I don't think you need to do that for your entire career. Right. But I do think, like you said, it's almost like an education, a 4-year degree. Maybe you need 8 years of that for some. But that idea, I think, is really, really fantastic. Now, tell me then, the Olympics 2012, how did you qualify and what was that experience like on the day you found out you were going to London Olympics?
Yeah, so for those 4 years, I really just wanted to put myself in a position where I could qualify and make the Olympic team. Because 2008, I didn't believe in myself, didn't believe I was capable of making it. So basically that was my goal, was to get there and feel like I belonged. And we had the first qualification event. If you had 2 U.S. women in the top 8, then you would qualify. And, Gwen Jorgensen knocked it out of the park that day. But thankfully, a second athlete could also qualify, and I was 7th. And I think the big thing was, mostly relief that, I'd put so much into this process to get myself to that point, and it was worth it. It paid off. And that was the biggest thing. It was relief. And then it was turning around to, okay, so next year, I'm going to have to figure out a way to be competitive. And that was the biggest thing for me. Is I still didn't think I was medal capable. And in hindsight, that was a failure on my part. But to get there and feel like I was competitive at the highest level of sport was really important to me.
Well, you and I can relate to everything you're saying. I think if I could do the 2004 Olympics all over again, and I've talked about on this show, so I won't bore listeners, but, my confidence was always an issue. And because of that, like you, it was 4th place at the Olympics, but I'll have you talk me through that Olympic experience now, because I think there's, you can be physically ready as you and I both would have been. But what was that one little thing that we might have been missing that we now can learn from when we look back? So, but yeah, tell me about that. You qualified for the games, you've gotten yourself ready, you've got a great coach in your corner. Take me through that London Olympic experience.
Yeah, no, I think that was such a special time because we had so many women from different countries in my squad, and a couple of men too. And just having that collective energy, it was very positive. It wasn't, you could see some bickering within squads, and we didn't have that. It was just a special time. And, it was incredible to see Lisa come out with a silver medal. Just we were all proud of the work we put in, regardless of what happened on the day. And I think, in hindsight, I needed more practice fighting for a podium. So I get to the race, I'm totally scatterbrained because as you know, the Olympics is overwhelming. There's all this stuff going on. I'm lining up. This tells you how scattered I was, which is just my default mode before a race anyway. If I'm a little ditzy, it means I'm probably going to have a good race. But we're lined up, like the music's playing. There are millions of people in Hyde Park. Okay, maybe hundreds of thousands, but millions of people watching on TV. And I realize, oh crap, I don't have my swimsuit pulled up all the way because it's wetsuit swim. My suit's down around my waist. We're about to go out onto the pontoon.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, where is my brain right now?
Hang on. You'd put your wetsuit on without pulling your swimsuit up all the way?
Yeah.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt it.
I had to tell the head coach, hey, I have to put my suit on right now because the race is about to start, and the worst thing in the world would be you get to transition, pull off your suit, and your wetsuit and your suit's not on all the way. So I duck behind some tent, get things on. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go now. The swim was fine. I'm a pretty strong swimmer, got out in the right place, and it just was this crazy, crazy bike ride, if you remember, where people were crashing over Buckingham Palace. There was this little loop, and there were all these crashes left and right. And halfway through the race, I'm behind this massive crash. I have to basically bunny hop a woman who's on the ground ahead of me, or else I'm going to crash into her. And all of a sudden, I'm like 300 meters behind the pack. Emma Jackson's right next to me. I'm like, holy crap, Emma, did you just see that? I just bunny hopped somebody. She's like, yeah, but we gotta go. So I just time trialed back to the group. But for me, that was this great wake up call that, okay, stop being in La La Land. This is a race. Like you've been too lackadaisical. You haven't had, you haven't been focused enough. And that was just kind of this switch in my brain for the race. We get off the bike. I don't think there were any more crashes beyond that point, but it's this huge group and, tons of this massive pack of women off the front. And it's just, you realize this entire race is going to come down to a run race, which is not, necessarily my forte. And we're just running. I'm just taking it all in. There are all these people. I'm realizing that, the pace is a little hot. Andrea Hewitt goes to the front at one point, really pushes the pace, starts to break up. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just do a pace that's comfortable for me. So they had surged, and I'm like, I'm just going to stay where it's comfortable. And towards the last lap, I realized that I had basically gained. They had dropped a lot of people who had passed, and there was only a group of a few of them. And all of a sudden, I had bridged up to them. We're talking half a lap left, maybe. Like, oh my goodness, I'm in the front pack of the Olympic Games, and I'm looking around, and it's like 800 meters to go. And at that point, I have this thought: all right, Sarah, there are 4 people here. One person's not going to get a medal, which is, as you know, the wrong thought to be having at that moment.
Well, in fairness, I think every single athlete still does it. I mean, it is a numbers game. I think we all look around and go, hang on, there's 4 of us. Huh. And that's like, what weapon do I have to try and make something happen here? And it's kind of, that's where you go to your arsenal and go, what do I have? So tell me, that final 800, did you think you had a sprint in you, or what was that like?
So, Greg, I didn't get to that point where I readjusted and I'm like, what is in my arsenal? I was stuck in the, holy crap, I'm in the front pack, because for half the race, I was in 10th position and watching the front group ahead of me. So I didn't mentally readjust quickly enough to be able to think, all right, obviously in hindsight, I would have recalibrated in that moment. But because I had so few experiences fighting for a podium at that point in a race, I didn't know my strengths. I didn't really know tactically what to do at that point. And I was just so in shock from, this is the Olympics. I'm not half a race ago, I did not think I was supposed to be here. So I hadn't done the mental training to be able to adapt at that point. And that, like they went and I couldn't mentally adjust. I just watched them run away and I was just in shock. Yeah. So it was really interesting to me because here it was this race that absolutely exceeded my expectations. But then once it sunk in, oh my word. I mean, once it sinks in, you're like, it's not what you achieved on that day. It's what you feel like you lost. Like if I had believed in myself more, if I'd put myself in more positions to be prepared to fight for that podium, maybe I would have gotten a medal or at least, been closer to it. But instead you focus so much on the regret side of things. And that can be just so toxic. I don't know how long it took for you to kind of get over the disappointment part and the regret to a point of pride. But honestly, Greg, it took me years to look at that race and be really proud instead of disappointed in myself.
Yeah, it's I think we're all affected differently from different performances. And I've talked a lot about it where I had to learn how to win. And you're talking about, learning to be on the podium even.
Yeah.
Is that the same kind of concept? But it's that for me, probably the first 15 years of my career I was very consistent. I was thereabouts. Even though I won the World Series a couple of times, that was not a lot of winning.
Right.
There was 6, I think, World Cups in 3 years or whatever. It wasn't a lot of winning. I was never that guy that knew how to win. And for me, the Athens Olympics was more. I was on the start line hoping not to embarrass myself. That's how poor my mindset was at that race. I'd had an injury and things, but still, my mindset was don't embarrass myself. That's how far away I was from thinking of podium or winning. It was just don't embarrass yourself on TV.
Right.
Terrible, terrible place. And it really did take me sort of 2 or 3 years after that before I sort of felt like I started to understand the mindset of what it takes to win. But that took a lot of deep processing and figuring it out. And but for me, I got to marry Laura after the Olympics, and a whole heap of other great things happened that it was kind of like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I moved on reasonably quick after it, but every now and then I look back and go, oh, a medal would have been nice. A medal would have been nice. I mean, of course, right? But then you got to put it in perspective and go, hang on, I'm an Olympian. I got 4th at the games. For you trained relentlessly for years, living out of a suitcase. You committed to something fully. I don't think anybody fully finishes their career going, I did everything I wanted to do.
Right.
There's always this, that would have been nice. And we're talking 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We're talking 10 seconds for you over a 2-hour event to say, and that's not really fair, is it? I mean, I think you've got to be good to yourself on that and go, look, I made the team well. I fronted up and I presented myself well to the world and delivered a tremendous performance. You ran a 33:52 for 10K.
Yeah, but it took me years to be able to be objective about it. Because you put so much into this process that it's easy to get caught up on the emotion and really hard to step back and say, hey, that was the race of my life at that point. I had never performed at that level, and you just have to take it for what it is.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what you did. I mean, but then, you moved on from the games and you did start winning. And, you had big WTS wins in, Stockholm in 2014 and 2015. And 2014, you had just one of those years. You weren't far off winning the World Series in 2014. So you certainly, moved on pretty well and stronger for it. Tell me about those couple of big wins and those couple of years. Yeah,
so I moved on. I wanted to try something different. I loved Darren, but the program was definitely changing in those years after 2012. So I worked with Joel Filial for a few years, and the goal was to learn how to race, at the top of the sport. And it just happens that, my those years coincided with Gwen Jorgensen being absolutely dominant.
I know. Didn't she? What when I had her on the show?
It was something like 12 wins in a row or something.
Yeah, something like that. 2 years in a row, undefeated, basically. Yeah.
And it was, that's really, that was unfortunate timing for me, but it also brought more out of me as an athlete. So, I learned how to be an athlete who fought for the podium in those years, which was what I didn't have going into 2012. So that was, part of my goal. And going to 2016, I had confidence that I could perform at a podium level. On the day, I had an absolutely disaster of a race. The kind of the lessons from the past, from 2016 on, is that your body can just do weird stuff and you just have to adjust. Up until that point, things had been pretty predictable for me, but it was just this new wrench into the whole mix. I cramped up, like totally devastating, tried to ride, had to DNF, which is never what a fit, ready athlete wants to do at the Olympic Games. It's absolutely devastating. But, you're in the situation and there's nothing else you can do. So I had to learn how to move beyond that. I had to be proud of, over that quad, turning myself into the athlete who could fight for a podium. I still, I absolutely believe that I was medal capable on the day. It's just some freaky stuff happens in races, and it just happened on the worst day possible for me.
I know.
Yeah, but it also, I think the upside is that, it makes you, it's humbling. It's humbling. You realize that when things come together, it's so beautiful. Like when you have the training blocks that go well, when you have the races where, things mostly go the way you hope or expect them to, it's magical. And those races really are far and few between for most of us.
I've said this to a lot of young professionals. They're like, Greg, can you tell us one thing? I said, well, just get used to the fact you're going to lose far, 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 far more than you're ever going to win. They're always like, what? I'm like, well, unless your name's Alistair Brownlee or Javier Gomez in the men, or Gwen Jorgensen, like we mentioned in the women, the rest of us, we scramble. And boy, is it special when that win comes. When you push for something for a decade, maybe two, and then finally you start to get a few of them, it just feels so good. I mean, you mentioned a word that I love, and that's, the humility. This sport will absolutely kick the crap out of you until you become a humble, human being. I really find it is one of those sports that it really is a grounding sport. You get too far ahead of yourself, it'll kick the crap out of you. And that's where I think all the professionals, and you may agree or disagree, but I think all the professionals, I've had on this show, and people like my peers that I race against, are just some of the most wonderful people in the world, because I think we've all been to hell and back. And you come a step out of it and go, okay, I can't be arrogant. I can't be this or that. My turn is coming where I'm going to cramp, where I'm going to have something happen to me. You agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, I would say that it would be interesting to talk to those names you mentioned, the Ali, the Javi, the Gwens, because they have tried things in the past few years where they used to be, they were accustomed to being dominant. And then, Ali, not having the day he wanted at Kona. Same with Javi, where these are athletes who are used to winning. Gwen switching to running, which is awesome, but all of a sudden not being dominant. And
that's true.
I would be so interested whether that's changed their perspective, because it's humbling in a really great way. And I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about having such a strong amateur side of sport, is that I think our trajectory is more similar to what the amateurs do than maybe they realize. And I I was separated from that when you do the short course racing, you don't interact a lot with the amateur side of sport. But when you get to like Ironman, half Ironman distance racing, you are standing in line with everybody, whether they're, a 17-hour person or not. And you're covering the same course and you're going through the highs and lows. And I'm not sure that a lot of people, on the amateur side realize that it's similar highs and lows. It's just maybe you go a little bit faster. But I think it is something that really connects us in triathlon.
No, I agree with that whole connection. I think that's one thing you do miss when you do the short course in the Olympics. And for me, I was fortunate. A lot of my career crossed over with a lot of non-drafting Olympic distance racing in the US, where we did get that same kind of the half Ironman that you talk about, where you get to be on the start line together and everything else. Tell me about that transition from going for, the Olympics and to long course, and what was that like? And I guess, and part of that is, changing coaches again. So you've had, when I look at your coaching resume, it's the best of the best. I mean, seriously, Siri Lindley, one of the great motivators of the world, just her passion is just absolutely contagious and knows how to coach. Darren Smith, another fantastic coach. Joel Filiol, who I've had on the show, and just absolutely brilliant, a mastermind of coaching. And then Dan Lorang, who's coaching Jan Frodeno and Annie Hug to both win their world titles in 2019. I mean, you've identified great coaches. Do you play the stock market? I'm just kidding. But I mean, no. You've done really well there. What was that transition like?
So what's cool is that I have learned different things from each coach, and for each phase of my career, what their approach was relevant. So I think early on, like my first professional coach, I needed somebody who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And that is Siri to a T. I don't think it would have been a right fit for me to work with Dan back then, because he's very much into athletes, being autonomous, like having that self-efficacy, where basically I rarely talk to him. He puts my program up. He looks at my data. We exchange notes every once in a while. He's there for me if I need him, but I needed to learn how to be able to manage myself day to day, like be able to put 30 hours of training in by myself, and to have the mental skills to, be able to get those basics dialed in before I could have somebody who was on the other side of the world, just, sending me a program. That would not have worked for me as a new pro. Like I needed somebody there, to help me develop those skills. But, for where I am in my career, it's as you go up in experience, like you need more of a partner than you need necessarily a coach.
I agree.
It's somebody who's deeply involved in all the different aspects of high performance. So yeah, I've been really fortunate that they all have different strengths, and, it's been really interesting to watch their process with athletes. So yeah, basically, let's see, couple years after the games, I think it was like fall 2017. And it was about October before Kona started. And basically I just woke up and I'm like, you know what? I need to do Ironman. And it had never been a strong impulse. It's not like I'd been pushing it to the back burner, just chomping at the bit. Can't wait to move on to long course. But for the first time in years, I would say it was so much a personal challenge, where for the middle part of my career, like I was racing, it was very professional, right? So I wanted the results. I wanted to, make the money, because this is what we do for a job. And like, all of everything that has to do with the professional side. But then I think I lost the plot of how fulfilling it is to set challenges and go into something that's scary and may fill you with fear. Because we've seen, plenty of really great short course athletes, step up in distance and, struggle a little bit. I'm like, that's very possible that it's going to be me. And I have to commit to this, knowing that I may not be good at it. I know nothing about holding, sitting in bars for 5 hours. I know nothing about the nutrition for long course. I have to learn all this. It's like a whole new sport. And I may go through a year of this, absolutely hate it, be terrible at it, but at least I'll have put myself out there and tried. And I was at that point where I'm like, if I don't try, I will be filled with more regret than if I just, call it a day. Because at that point, it was either I'm done with racing or I'm going to try this longer course stuff and, see if I have a love of it and an aptitude for it. And, in looking at a coach, I knew that Dan had worked with short course athletes who moved up in distance. And that was really important to me. Just understanding the context of where I'd come from. Obviously, he's a great coach and had results at that time, but it was more his approach. He's not super high volume. It's rare that I would go up to 30 hours a week. We're more like mid 20s, which is quite low for Ironman athletes. And somebody who could kind of empower me to be able to do it by myself at home. And, he ticked all the boxes. He's also super nice guy, which makes a big difference to me. And I trusted him, and I was right to trust him because he's awesome.
He is awesome. I was blown away when I had him on the show, actually. And just the way the style of his coaching, I think would have resonated with me as well. I think the reason that is, it's like you said, identifying the fact that he understands how to bring a short course kind of talent or that work ethic, that mindset from short course and bring it into Ironman. Even when he said, look, we start off in the program doing VO2 work.
Right.
And that's almost a complete flip to many coaches out there that, hang on, you're starting doing VO2 work. But that resonated with me. That was, I get that, and then you layer on the strength and endurance on top of it. So that was fascinating for me. And then a year later, you've qualified for Kona and you get, you come up with a fourth place on your debut. That experience alone, what was it like?
Oh man, it's hot. It's really hot there, which is not my strength. So, that was a big part of it for me too, where I knew that, in short course racing, I did well on cold days when everybody else was, shivering before the start. I knew that that was going to probably be my day. But I had to wrap my head around the fact that these are grueling conditions and I had to be prepared for them. I was there over a month in advance of the race. So I knew the course, I knew the conditions. I felt pretty comfortable in Kona. So I think that always makes a big difference, especially for a first timer, understanding that bike course, understanding the winds a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, when it comes to race day, you never know. You never know if you're prepared enough. And, I was, and I, other than the fact that I messed up my nutrition a bit, it was, pretty much on the run. It was pretty much the swim bike. I wouldn't have done it any differently. The run, I would have been better with taking in calories. But just when you get that hot and it's not, it still isn't totally programmed for me to be really on top of the nutrition. It's easy to kind of forget a station or two. And I learned that one the hard way. And Ani Haug went by me. I'm like, I cannot respond and I just need to get to the finish line. But, the last 10K, I don't remember that much. I really don't remember crossing the finish line. I left everything out there on the course. And those are the days you have to be proud of. And for me, what a contrast with, 2012. So both races, they're major races. I finished fourth. One race for me, it took me years to kind of get over that disappointment and feeling like I'd done things the wrong way or could have done them differently. And then in Kona, it's like, I'm just proud of the fact that that was everything I had. And I probably wouldn't have done things massively differently, other than some nutrition, but who knows if it would have made a difference. I probably still would have finished fourth. But just the whole process and how I approached them mentally, it was absolutely different. And I'm grateful for, the emotional maturity that I gained in those 8 years.
And I think that's just it. The maturity as an athlete, when you get to that point, you can manage disappointment, you can manage expectations, you manage self-doubt. All of these things are still there, but I think the management becomes you become a lot better at it. You're more fine-tuned. And then look, 2019, I don't want to spend, loads of time at this, but for listeners that don't know the story, 2019 was an incredible year. And if it's okay with you, I'll just quickly review it and then we can kind of recap it. But so Ironman Cairns in Australia, and for professionals, you've got to basically finish top 1, 2, or 3, depending on the ranking of the race, how many spots they give to the professionals. Ironman Cairns, you're well positioned. You collapse 17 or so kilometers into the run. Ironman Frankfurt, unbelievable performance a month later. Has a 6 or 7 minute lead on second, a 13-minute lead on third, and you collapse with 700 meters to the finish. You then still have to qualify for Kona because you finished fourth the year before, and they only give top 3 only have to validate, whereas everybody else has to qualify. Then you go to Ironman Mont Tremblant in Canada and finish second. So you do qualify for Kona. And basically, because of where you've dropped out in those earlier races, you're basically up to your fourth Ironman. I mean, Frankfurt was 700 meters to go. And I mean, you've really done the work. Kona, you then have a mechanical at the start of the bike. I just finished start the bike basically 12 minutes, losing 12 minutes. And then you have, again, some heat issues coming down from Harvey, and you end up in hospital. Okay, that's the summary. I think I've got it mainly because I don't want to have to, you have to retell all the drama of it, but where are you at with understanding your body and this ability to, I don't know if admiration's the right word, but I kind of admire the fact that you're able to click this override switch, almost like the Alistair Brownlee, when he went down the London, that World Series race in London, where he, took himself, he was running 3-minute Ks and then he just, collapsed. You almost have the same kind of override system that won't listen to the brain that says slow down.
Well,
what is it?
It's so interesting. Obviously, professionally, it's kind of devastating because,
of course,
those were really not great experiences.
Well, it's not just not great. I mean, it's dangerous and scary.
So basically, last year I was supposed to do this whole round of testing, and COVID and all, it all got shut down because, but basically the current hypothesis, because we've done the heat testing and everything basically from the neck down seems totally fine.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's something that's happening in my brain that interprets heat signals before I'm physiologically feeling any real distress. So looking at, if you look at heart rate, for example, my heart rate files totally normal. Like Frankfurt, totally normal, exactly where you would think. But something's happening from the shoulders up where my brain has basically interpreted that I'm in danger when I'm not.
Wow.
And that's like, I get to the point where it turns off the lights. So it's really frustrating because, I do things right. Like I'm on top of electrolytes, I'm on top of fluids, like I'm making sure my heart rate's not getting elevated, that the pace and my wattage is right. And then just my brain's like, this is it. We're just going to stop you. So there's a really good chance that I did some pretty long-term brain damage in Kona in 2018 because I like you said, I essentially overrode that switch and continued to race when my brain was kind of shutting off. So there's a good possibility that, you know, the part of your brain that interprets, you know, temperature and threat, like basically went into high alert so that it shuts off way before I'm actually in danger.
Wow.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Great for Kona.
Pardon the pun, but that blows my mind. It really does. I mean, it's this protective mechanism.
Yeah.
That is switching on. I wonder if there's, here's, I'm just hypothesizing here. You know, with a kilometer go in Frankfurt or whatever, probably the second biggest race outside of Kona, to be honest, is huge. I wonder if there's an adrenaline side to it where maybe that excitement kicked in or you know, and that kind of added fuel to the fire. You know, was there any of that, or when did it start kicking in? Or when did your brain kind of switch off for you in Frankfurt?
So the lights were dimming. So like that's really the best analogy I can use is that, you know, you have like a dimmer switch. There were points probably from like 4K on where it's like the dimmer switch would go up and down. And then like I remember going through that aid station and like there was a spectator who thought I was in distress and he like wanted to help me, or another competitor, he wanted to help me. And it basically took all momentum out of my body. And you know, the first aid crew, they see me on the ground. They go into high alert. I honestly believe like I definitely could have made it 700 more meters. It would have been ugly. Like it would have been a continuation of like, you know, what I had seen, but I was still moving forward at that point. Which is totally fascinating because the dimmer switch was still going on and off. But like from the neck down, I was okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
How infuriating. You don't even...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I had a proper battle with the first aid people.
Yeah. No, well, in fairness to them, right? I mean, they see you. Yeah.
I know. I totally get it. But I'm like, I can do it.
Yeah. It was like the Alistair Brownlee grabbing Jonathan Brownlee in Cancun as one of the medics tried to grab him.
Yeah.
And there's a few explosive, you know, leave him alone. I'll drag him to the finish. You needed your sister out there to carry you the final 700 meters. You would have been fine. I mean, but you still would have had the same, you know, until we get on top of this, you know, the same thing going into Kona. So
totally. So it's not like finishing that race would have changed the problem, but that would have been, you know, a significant part of my income for the year.
Yeah, no, I get it. Oh my goodness, I get it. Yeah, no. Oh wow. And so, do you find that ever happens kind of in training or certain workouts, or is it just those events?
It happens a few times after that, like because we didn't really do much training between Cairns and Frankfurt. But there were some sessions where that was happening. And then, so like, you know, we assumed there's something going on with my internal temperature. And I rented some fancy schmancy, you know, internal thermometer unit, did a whole bunch of testing and totally fine. You know, like core temperature, not showing any distress, but it's just my brain would start to go into high alert mode before any other signs. Yeah.
Oh, so this is you're going to be a unique lab test to somebody out there because no, it is. Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes, you know, in our sport, we all hear about all the tests that you're talking about, the heat, you know, and the heart rates and heart rate variability and blah, 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 blah. And it's all below the neck.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating. And look, I wish the very, very best for your health and your performances going forward. But on its own merit, it's a fascinating idea to go, wow, the brain has, you know, the override mechanism, the dimming switch,
right,
and it'll use it when it wants. And you're like,
yeah, totally. So I completely. That's what I've been saying over the past couple of years. I'm like, listen, as a professional, this is really frustrating and I'm angry at the situation, but intellectually it's fascinating to me that, you know, my hypothalamus has basically just like, I have done serious damage to it. And, you know, the doctor I'm working with, he's like, listen, maybe this year off from COVID and now year off because of baby, like maybe that's enough to kind of reboot things a bit. We're going to find out. And maybe not. Like maybe this is a long-term thing where I probably can't race in hot conditions ever again. The only way I'm going to find out is by trying again. And because I am one stubborn mofo, I do want to try again. I
know. But you have to try again with the open mindset, right? Like without this kind of, I know that's going to be a real, it's going to take a lot of mental preparation in its own right to go, look, I'm going to, because I think the fear mechanism then kicks in that it's going to happen. So it's like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? You know, so it's like, how do I make sure that doesn't then become a part of it? But I'm sure you've got techniques in order to make that happen. Was Ben able to travel with you to these events in Australia and Frankfurt? You know, did you have family with you when these events happened?
No. Ben was there in Kona though. So that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, for that one. Because that's the thing. These things are kind of scary when you're on your own. Do you travel with the team when you go to these big events normally?
No.
Or?
So that was one of the interesting things about most people, their first year of Ironman, you know, they go through the low points and they're like, oh man, I learned how painful it is to bonk. Or, you know, like you make little mistakes. My first year, like, hey, this isn't that bad.
Here we go.
I can manage this on my own. No big deal. I don't need a team around me.
Right.
And then the second year, I'm like, oh, that was really humbling.
Yeah. Isn't that good though? I mean, you learned that it's like, okay, the importance of having the team. I mean, we keep growing, we keep learning. Just when isn't it funny? You think you figured it all out. And then you're like, oh, I'm a day older and I'm still learning. I still don't have it all. I was hoping we'd see you in Daytona last year, but I guess that was you were already pregnant.
Little mini bun in the oven.
mini. We used to call our little Sydney a pine nut because that was about the size of her when we found out. So you're keeping a little bit active now for training and things?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously once you're an athlete, you're going to want to be active your entire life. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's very strong evidence suggesting that an active mom results in a healthier baby. So, you know, before my surgery a few weeks ago, I was I was pretty much stayed around 20 hours a week for training, which is, you know, solid. But as a professional, like, it's on the lower end. And I took a lot of the intensity out. And now I'm just kind of building back from surgery. I have no idea what the third trimester is going to be, but I am so grateful for learning the humility about my body in the past few years that I'm totally okay just not sticking to schedule right now, listening to cues. Like right now, my job is to grow a healthy human and, you know, continue to stay active because it's going to be better for me on the other side and for baby. But it's a very different mindset from when you are in full training mode. You have this feeling of control and, you know, wanting to stick to a schedule and wanting to tick the boxes. And it's such a shift to wake up in the morning and be like, you know what? I'm not feeling awesome. So I'm just going to do an easy swim today. Such a big shift. It's
been a massive shift on our life. Both Laura and I, you know, the way that we're both fairly anxious people, Laura and I, and so sport's always been great for us, and having a bit like you, goals and plans, and having kids is forcing us to be everything we're not. And that it's been great because I think we needed some of that of just letting go because, you know, nap time's at 1 o'clock. You know, we got to get it. It's like, just chill out. You know, we've had to, it's been hard for us, you know, as a process of letting go. I really feel like that's it. Parenting is almost the process of letting go, trying to build healthy kids, protect them the best you can. I think Crory, when he was on, he said, Greg, you know, progress over perfection. And you just try and do the best you can as a parent. And that's what I keep reminding Laura. Look, progress over perfection. The kids are going to get sick. They're going to get this and this and this. We do the best we can. But look, let's wind up with a few questions if we can. Firstly, I like to finish off with a couple of big questions. Like, firstly, what's one tip you have for people on how to just optimize their lives?
Anybody, athlete or non?
Anybody. Yeah. Well, what's sort of one bit of advice? I mean, it can be an athlete or it depends, anybody you want.
Prioritize sleep.
Oh, what a cracker. I love that. No, that is, I think that's exactly it. I love the fact that when we were athletes, people would say, don't call the Bennetts after 8.
Yeah.
Because it was that prioritized sleep. Fantastic. So your sleep hygiene, you guys are on it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So our number one concern about having kids is the sleep thing. But we are going to sleep train that baby right away. No,
Yeah.
we're full on, like, we travel with a white noise machine. We'll do the blackout shades. Yeah. Screens down well in advance of bedtime, all that stuff.
Wi-Fi off. I've said on the show this year we invested in a chili pad, so the bed's really cold.
Yep.
We have the white noise machine going too. We actually do the ocean these days. We do waves crashing. My mum couldn't stand it. We had to share a room in New York when we went up there about 18 months ago. And I'm like, Mum, I got to turn on the wave machine. She's like, what? I have these waves crashing in the background. She almost felt like she was getting seasick. Now, here's another question for you. If you could sit and have a coffee with any living person, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. This is such a lame answer, but I haven't seen my sister in months, and I just want to see my sister. I miss her.
That is so wonderful. We didn't talk about your sister. Amazing novelist. Awesome. She's absolutely. I remember 2015. I think you posted the book that she wrote. Sorry. And I remember President Obama said it was his favorite book of 2015.
Oh, yeah. Fates and Fears. She has a new one coming out this fall, so I'll plug her.
Yeah,
it's called Matrix.
Lauren is her sister's name? Lauren Groff.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing novelist. People check her out. I'll put that in show notes as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You go. What about your brother then? What's he up to?
Oh, he's kind of like the black sheep of the family. So he's an MD MBA, like has 5 businesses, 4 kids, whatever.
What is it with your family? Oh my gosh. You can't have all of you be amazing. So you got the Olympian, the novelist, and the MBA businessman, 5 businesses. My goodness.
Well, there's the dark side we're not going to talk about in the show, but
that's incredible. That's fair. Congrats to your parents. They've done a wonderful job. Now, this is what I've just added the last few episodes, and I'm having fun doing it, so I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to ask you 15 just really rapid fire questions.
Okay, do it.
You can say pass, okay? So don't feel you have to answer. They're a bit of fun. Some of them are a bit serious, but otherwise, let's give it a crack, huh?
Okay, I'll try to be speedy.
No, you're right.
Tap into my fast twitch from years ago.
No, you don't have to do it like that. It's just more. It's a fun way for me to end up. Anyway, here we go. What is your favorite family vacation?
Northeast Kingdom, Vermont.
Nice. Who would you dream of having a head-to-head duel to the finish with at Kona Ironman World Champs?
Rinny.
I love it. I knew you'd say that too. That's great. Is it kind of a deeper one? What would you change about yourself if you could?
My feet size. Foot size. They're too big.
Is that right? Yeah,
they're very large.
But look at how well you swim.
Yeah, I don't kick though.
Yeah, people say that. Here's something for you. I have webbed toes.
Right, but you don't kick.
I don't kick at all, and I have locked ankles, so they're absolutely useless. I have zero kicking. Yeah,
they're just there. It's not helpful. We should,
I love that. Oh, you made me laugh. That was good. Here we go. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself, 18-year-old self?
Chill out.
Nice. I like that. Most recent book you've read?
A pregnancy fitness book.
Good. Well done. Actually, Laura's got a really good one. I think it's called Fit for Pregnancy. I've forgotten the name of it, but I'll have Laura reach out to you.
Okay, thanks.
She said it's really, really on it with what to eat, and especially 3rd trimester type stuff. So outside of triathlon, if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
I'd like to go scuba diving again.
Nice. That sounds fun. I've never done that.
It's fun. Yeah.
I can't. My ears. You know where you can't. What do they call it? Compress your ears or whatever it is.
Oh.
I can't do that. Whenever I dive deep in a pool, I'm like, ah.
Oh, that hurts.
Okay, here's a fun one. Which would you rather do? Wash dishes, mow the lawn, clean the bathroom, or vacuum the house?
Vacuum the house.
That is so funny. You and Dr. Hannah Wells both said that. All the guys I've had on it have said mow the lawn.
Oh,
so there we go. Yeah. Okay. Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life?
Meryl Streep.
Oh, wow. Strong woman. I like it.
I mean, she's gotten a whole bunch of Oscars. I know she'll do it well.
She would do a fantastic job. Everybody loves Meryl Streep. But she also plays that really strong, but she can also be fun. So, yeah, that's I like it. What was the last gift you gave somebody?
I made Easter dinner for my family.
Oh, good on you. If you had a time machine, would you travel to the future or back to the past?
Past.
How far back?
10 years.
Just 10 years?
Yeah.
Man, I'd go back to the Romans.
Oh, we're allowed to go back beyond the scope of our...
Yes.
Oh.
And anywhere to the future. Like, think...
Oh, it was pretty shitty for women for most of history. So this is a good moment for women.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to be, 1800s Victorian era, like corsets and everything. I would not jive well there.
No, that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well thought out. Okay. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Talk to animals.
Yeah, that's an easy one, I think.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. Okay, here's another animal question. If you could describe yourself as an animal, which one would it be?
A moose.
What? And that you didn't even have to think long about that one.
Kind of awkward, surprisingly good swimmer, funny looking, big feet,
that
eats
is brilliant.
grass and stuff. I don't know.
Oh, that was great.
Lives in New Hampshire. I don't know, Greg.
all of that was just so great. Okay, here's one. Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Good one. Okay, most recent show you watched on Netflix?
This Danish show called Borgen.
Okay, Borgen.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of let's see, West Wing and what's the other political Kevin Spacey one? I'm totally blanking on.
Yeah, where he's president. Blah, blah,
yeah.
Blah. How can we both blank on that?
I know. Well, those two shows.
Yes. Okay. Got it. It'll come to us as soon as we hang up here. Okay. Final question. If you won $100 million in the lottery, how would you spend it?
Unfortunately, they take a lot of it in taxes.
No. You get to keep it. Don't get all practical on me like Laura would
sorry.
do. Just play with me on this.
We would buy our dream farm and then save most of it for our child's education because it's getting out of control.
Yes, you'll need all of that plus some. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm always surprised when I ask that question because I feel like I'm the only one that actually has a whole spreadsheet on how I would spend it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually do. Laura thinks I'm hilarious. I'm like, I'm so sure I'm going to win. I play with Mark and Helen Jenkins.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Every now and then. And I'm always so sure we're going to win it that I want to be prepared. That's my whole planning thing. You see, I can't even enjoy the lottery. I have to be ready. One day I'll share it with everybody on the show. But
well, what do they say? Like anticipation's half the pleasure.
That's true. Yeah. That's it. It's that kind of. Is that what they say?
Something like that. Maybe I just made it up. I don't know.
No, that was a good one because I think you're right. It's that kind of you don't, and then when it actually happens, quite often it really is what was about the journey.
Ooh, did we just come full circle?
I hope everybody's been enlightened by this conversation that you and I have had. It's been absolutely wonderful, Sarah.
It's been such a joy, Greg.
Let me just say before, just massive congratulations. I am really, really excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Really, it's
I welcome any parenting tips.
Careful putting
we're
that
clueless.
out.
Somebody asked today if we had set up like a baby room. We haven't done that. We are so unprepared.
No, you're not. Honestly, Laura and I never did the nursery. We never did we threw the baby in a bassinet.
Yep.
And we were there for it. I really think that's the biggest thing. Just be there for it. And, you know, you're going to leave the hospital after a couple of days in hospital and they're going to go, see you later. And you're going to drive home with a little girl in the back. And you're going to go home and go, holy crap, now what do we do? And you just figure it out. And your mums are, you know, if your mum's around, they often give the best advice, which is, you know, stop listening to everybody and just use some common sense. And it's amazing how it just ticks along. So that's it. There's my parenting advice.
No, I think that's the best overall, is that, you know, ultimately you learn through experience.
Yeah. The whole breastfeeding thing's a lot of, you know, that's worth talking to Laura and Rinny and everybody about, because
Don't they just kind of know how to do it?
Yeah. You need, the hospital will give you a lactation consultant and make, you know, that first time it latches on, and, you know, and then there's the whole pumping thing, you know. I don't know. That's the bit that, you know, Laura.
You know more than I do, Greg.
Oh, I've been in the trenches. Sarah, this has been just absolutely wonderful. So thanks so much for your time and just sharing all your journey and all your experiences and knowledge. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's really nice catching up.
Yeah, it has been.
Hopefully we'll do it in person before too long.
Oh, I can't wait.
We'll have like a kid play date.
That'll be it. Yes, we'll have to bring them all together, and then we can just all sit down, have a glass of wine, and we can record some of these shows. Now, where can people, you know, the listeners follow you? Where are you at?
In New Hampshire. No, I guess the default is Instagram these days. Yeah. I don't even know. Sarah Be True or something like that.
Sarah Be True. I'll put it in the show notes. And you have a YouTube show. You guys are doing a bit on that, aren't you? Every now and then?
Yeah, rarely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with all of it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Just life gets in the way, you know?
All right. Well, Sarah, this has been great. Thanks, everybody, for listening and sharing the show and everybody's feedback. I really appreciate it. And you can find all the show notes and timestamps and all the links and coupon codes at bennettendurance.com/media. Thanks again, Sarah. Stay on the line. That was wonderful.
Thanks a lot for listening to Be With Champions. If you've enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Be With Champions Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.